Hello students, welcome back to the channel. So in this video, we are going to cover operating system process synchronization. This topic is very interesting and very important for your college and university level examination. So in this session, we will start with the introduction of process synchronization, different types of processes that we can use in the synchronization. Along with this, we will discuss the working of this process with some real life examples. So this video will definitely help you clear all the concepts related to this topic. So let's start with the introduction part. So as you can see here, process synchronization, or simply it is known as synchronization. It is a task of coordinating the execution of processes in a way that no two processes can have access to same shared data and resources. In simple terms, we can say that the synchronization is the way by which processes, let's say we have three processes here. Okay, P1, P2 and P3, by which the processes that share the same memory space. These three processes are using shared memory space. That means these three processes have the common memory, right? So synchronization is the way by which processes that share the same memory space are managed in an operating system. Also, it helps us to maintain the consistency of data. So it helps us to maintain consistency of the data that we have already stored in the shared memory by using variables or hardwares, so that only one process can make changes to the shared memory at a time. Let's take an example to understand this concept. Let's say process P1 wants the shared memory for 10 seconds. Process P2 want it for 5 seconds and process P3 want it for 15 seconds, right? So, at the particular time when process P1 is using the memory, no other process is allowed to make changes in this memory. This is the process that we done with synchronization. Okay, I am repeating the official definition. The process synchronization helps maintain the consistency of data by using variables or hardware, so that only one process can make changes to the shared memory at a time. मान लीजिए after 10 seconds, when the shared memory space is used by process P2, at that particular time for 5 seconds only process P2 has a power. Only process P2 is allowed to make changes in this shared memory space. Okay, so I hope everything is clear till now. And one more important point here is there are various solutions for this problem. This is a problem, right? This is not a solution of anything. This is a big problem. Why this is a problem? Because if, let's say, process P1 is using the shared memory space for 10 seconds, and at that same time process P1 wants to make changes at an urgent basis, so process P1 is not allowed to do so, and that's why this is a major problem. And to resolve this problem, we can use some uh, protocols, we can use some various methods that include semaphores. Okay, we can also use mutex logs. Other than this, you can use synchronization hardware. So all these processes, all these methods helps us to solve such problems. Okay. Next point, very important point is whenever we are using synchronization. Okay, whenever we are using process synchronization, the process can be categorized into two different parts. First part we can use is independent process, and another is cooperative process. So whenever we talk about independent process, two processes are said to be independent here if the execution of one process does not affect the execution of another process. Means these two processes are independent to each other. If let's say one process is going to execute, then and process P2 is on the waiting queue. Okay, the execution of process P1 does not affect the execution or the process of process P2. Okay, execution process of second process P2. What is the meaning of cooperative process? So cooperative process, if two processes are said to be cooperative if the execution of one process affects the execution of another process. These processes need to be synchronized. So there you always need a synchronization between the processes so that the order of execution can be guaranteed. Right? Next point I would like to share with you are the advantages or disadvantages of using process synchronization. After that we'll move to the working. Okay, so advantages include process synchronization ensures data consistency. Let's say advantages, it ensures data consistency and integrity. Okay, second advantage is it avoids race condition. It avoids race condition. So if you know about race condition, then definitely you should revise this topic. That is very important for college level examination as well as for any competitive examination. If you don't know about this topic, you can comment below. I will make make a separate video on this topic as soon as possible. Okay, third we have is it prevents inconsistent data. It prevents inconsistent data due to concurrent access. Due to concurrent access. Okay, last and important, most important advantage of using process synchronization is it supports efficient and effective use of shared memory. Efficient and effective use of shared memory. Okay, let's take an example for this advantage point. Let's say if we have three processes in a queue and all these three processes want the shared memory. If we are not using process synchronization for these three processes, then all these three processes will request for the shared memory at the same time. And because of this access request, our system can go into the deadlock because we have only one shared memory and so many processes want it at the same time. That's why process synchronization is always required. If we use process synchronization, we can give numbers to the processes, we can give access time to the processes, we can schedule the working of all the processes one by one so that they can do their task, they can fulfill their requirements whenever it's their time. Okay, so this is why we use process synchronization. Now let's just have a view on the disadvantages of using synchronization process. Okay, so disadvantages include adds overhead to the system. Overhead to the system. Why this is so? Because whenever we want to synchronize the processes, we must give the processes some schedule, we must give the processes some numbers or some time to fulfill their request. That is why this is the advantages. It is very time consuming process. It can lead to performance degradation. Also it increases the complexity of a system. Complexity of a system. It can cause deadlock. I have told you earlier that it can cause a deadlock if not implemented properly. Let's say I am a developer, operating system manager, and you are also an operating system manager. We have 4 or 5 processes. Okay, we have 4 to 5 processes. If I give process P1 10 seconds, process P2 5 seconds, 15 seconds, 2 seconds, and again 10 seconds. Okay, these two processes wants the shared memory space at the same time on a urgent basis. On an urgent basis, then our system may create a deadlock. It may cause a deadlock because of the bad implementation, because of the bad formula or protocols used by the developers. Okay, so this is the major disadvantage of using this particular process synchronization section. Other than this, you should also know that the procedure involved in preserving the appropriate order of execution of cooperative process, उसको भी हम process synchronization बोलते हैं. And there are various synchronization mechanisms that we will cover in the next video. There are various synchronization mechanisms that are used to synchronize all the processes in the major format. Okay, now let's just talk about objectives, then we'll move to the working part. So the main objective of process synchronization is to ensure that multiple processes access shared resources without interfering with each other. The processes may use the shared memory without interfering with each other and prevent the possibility of inconsistent data due to concurrent access. And to achieve this, various synchronizations we can use, for example, semaphores, monitors, critical sections, all these synchronization techniques we can use to achieve this task. So we will cover every synchronization process in some next video, right? Now let's just move to the working part that is very important for an examination. Okay, so let us take a look at why exactly we need process synchronization. For example, if a process P1 is trying to read the data present in the memory location, this is memory, and process P1 is trying to read that data. Okay, while process P2 is trying to change the data at the same location at same point of time, there is a high chance that the data read by the process P1 will be incorrect. Okay, so इस केस में इसको चेंज अगर P2 कर रहा है लेकिन P1 उस चीज को पढ़ रहा था तो वो वैल्यू चेंज हो सकती है, तो हमारा पूरा सिस्टम की वर्किंग चेंज हो सकती है. ओके, इसको हम एक एग्जांपल के साथ देखते हैं. लेट्स से दिस इज द सेंट्रल shared memory. Process P1 is at the time want to read this. Okay, at the same time process P2 is going to write here. Write here means it is going to edit or make changes to the shared memory. At the same time process P3 is also want to read the data. Okay, so here we have different elements or sections of a process. First we have is entry section. It is a working part. Okay, it is entry section. The entry section decides the entry of a process. Then we have a critical section. Critical section allow and make sure that only one process is modifying the shared data. So it is the responsibility of critical section जो कि परमिशन देता है सिर्फ एक ही प्रोसेस को एट द सेम कि वो किसी पर्टिकुलर टाइम पे उस डेटा को राइट कर रहा हो. लेट्स टेक एन एग्जांपल कि प्रोसेस P1 इज राइटिंग ऑन द शेयर्ड मेमोरी for 10 seconds. Okay, after 10 seconds process P3 want to write something on the memory. Only when process P2 releases the system, only then process P3 is allowed to make changes. This is the working of critical section. Exit section, third point is The entry of other processes in the shared data after the execution of one process is handled by the exit section. Next is remainder section. So the remaining part of the code that is not characterized in the above three sections, that is taken under the remainder section. Okay, so I hope students everything is clear to you. We have discussed the introduction, working with real life examples, and also we have discussed advantages and disadvantages of using process synchronization. In the next video, we will cover four elements of process synchronization, its requirements and different mechanisms. All these points are very important for your examination, so stay on the channel. Thank you so much.